Welcome, everyone. I am so excited about today's show. Today, we have our special guest, Sabrina Stocker. Sabrina is a tennis player turned top 10 Apple News and Forbes featured entrepreneur. Sabrina built several successful companies, mentored hundreds of entrepreneurs, and was a finalist in the BBC One show, The Apprentice. Having spoken in front of thousands of arenas, including Wembley Stadium, the Excel Stadium, and the London Olympic Stadium, she has created a loyal community. Sabrina is the founder of 2, PR, a public relations agency, helping turn personal brands into profits. Helping her clients get featured in the top publications, podcasts, TV, and speaking events, she knows how to build a brand. Welcome, Sabrina. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for bringing me onto the show, Diana. I'm so excited to be here.
I am more excited because I'm really looking forward to learn more about your story and how you start on this path of helping other people build their brand, considering your background, being a tennis player. Tell us more about that.
Of course. So I grew up as a professional tennis player. And being that I traveled a lot, I had to constantly go onto court, compete, and really learn the skills of resilience, of strategy, and be able to adapt. And as I was growing as a tennis player, I started tennis coaching, and I found this really big gap in the market. And when I was 21 years old, I launched a tennis tournament company. And within 6 months, we were the largest tournament company in the UK. And 2 weeks later, we had a team of over 40 staff and over 400 events per year. So at 22 years old, I was making 6 figures quite comfortably every year. And I was really happy with that. And I continued doing this. I studied my MBA. I went on to the BBC One, the Apprentice program, and it opened up this entire world of red carpets and film premieres and paparazzi photos. And it was really incredible. When lockdown happened a couple of years ago, all my tennis tournaments stopped because, of course, there were no live events. And I created a tech platform, and using all of my contacts from the media, from building them up from TV, I was able to create a viral PR campaign. And that PR campaign ended up in 500,000 users within just 6 weeks. Everyone started saying, how did you do that? And I started helping others really build their personal brand and build their press contacts to then launch PR into their own lives.
Oh my God. I think this is really the dream of any coach out there. And we have many coaches on our platform. And I know from my own experience, this is a real struggle to build your brand and to build your authority on the market. And you did it so quickly. And you mentioned that the secret was the PR connections, the media.
Exactly, because there's so many incredible entrepreneurs, business coaches, and people really wanting to help other people. But if nobody knows who you are and nobody trusts you, then you could have the most incredible program in the world, but no one knows about it. So what PR really does is it makes you a trusted authority, because people buy from people they trust, and therefore using PR and leveraging the power of press, you're more likely to increase sales, more likely to increase user conversions, and be taken seriously in a world full of many competitors.
Oh my God, I am so impressed by what you built. And you are so young. I know that there are many people out there who struggle for years and years and doing all the stuff by themselves and struggling, maybe putting some content on social media, like now here and there, trying to attract a few clients. And I know for myself, that's not a way of living. It has to be a different way, an easier way to build your brand and just put yourself out there. And you did very fast with 500,000 subscribers, you mentioned, in 6 weeks.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. You can imagine the amount of emails we got in that time. I wasn't expecting for it to be too big, but it really does show you the power of, if you have a strong personal brand and people trust you and you're able to have the right contacts, then you can drive it to create real business.
Absolutely. And how can we build those contacts with the media? I don't know if this is part of your program, if you are teaching people how to do that. Can you give us a few tips on how we can do it?
I'd love to. Well, the first is having a look at what happens when you type your name into Google. And one of four different things comes up. The first is your name, your company website, your social media profiles, and some press links about saying who you are. The second is your competitor name comes up. The third is nothing at all comes up. And the fourth is negative PR. And that's obviously something we want to stay away from. So really the first part of getting and building those media contacts is making them care. And why should they care about you? And that all starts with your digital footprint. What happens when you type your name into Google? Because you can have all the media contacts in the world, but if they don't take you seriously and as an authority, it's not helping their agenda. So a great first step is to think about, okay, if I want to be known as, for example, a business coach or a scaling coach, what am I doing differently? And is Google representing what I'm saying? So therefore, before we actually go to the media, we know exactly what we're putting out there and what's eligible for somebody. So then when we do contact them, they'll be interested in who we are.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. What about the social media? I know that many entrepreneurs think that this is a loss of time and that we have to spend so many hours putting content on social media and it doesn't really pay off. What do you think about that?
Well, that's a great dilemma and a great question. I would say really start thinking about where is your ideal client hanging out? Which social media are they actually going to be on? And I really don't believe these hard selling tactics and converting and sharing shareable posts works very well. I think a lot of it comes down to social selling. And what I mean by that is, say that, for example, I'm on LinkedIn and I started this new strategy 2 weeks ago and I had 60,000 impressions in 2 weeks, all doing it myself, a few posts a day. And I wasn't talking about my business. I wasn't talking about how I can help people get into the PR, get into TV, help them monetize their brand. I talked about what I was like as a person and running a company and building a team. So because people like me, they're curious to know what I do. And then if that sounds like it's for them, they'll contact me. And it's a very great way of selling without being too pushy, because other people want to approach you rather than you approaching others.
I love that. I love that. So you're mentioning that we need to put our story out there on as many channels as possible and in a very authentic manner.
Exactly, because there's thousands of PR companies out there, just like there's thousands of business coaches and there's thousands of Instagram coaches. But why is somebody going to work with me? It's because they like me. We want to have fun doing business. So therefore, showing my personality on my positives and my negatives, my authentic self, but also giving genuine value is what people attracts to me. And from there, I'll either think they're a great fit or they're not, and I'll funnel them towards my service if they are a great fit. But I'm not selling my service, I'm selling myself.
I love that. I love that. I am very impressed by everything you've built, and you've built it so easily. And as I mentioned, I know I am working with many coaches who are struggling to build their brand and to really become visible on the market. And many times I think we even forget that we have to build an authority, that we need to be known, that we need to be trusted. And we kind of try to jump directly into the sales, and that doesn't work at all. You also mentioned something I saw on your profile, that you have something what is called 15 Love NFT. What is that?
Yes.
Can you tell us more about it?
Of course. Well, I love to challenge myself. So being a tennis player and also knowing a lot about the NFT projects from doing their PR, we created a tennis PR NFT. So if you're into NFTs and you love tennis and you want a utility backed projects, then you can definitely connect with us on Twitter for that.
How does it work? Do people need to buy the NFT on your platform and then they can sell it further, or how does it work? What is behind?
So you can mint the NFT on our website, which is 15lovenft.com, or you can buy it on the secondary market in OpenSea. And if you have no idea what you're doing and you just want to educate yourself, you can join our Discord for free. And it basically allows you to meet the players. So if you own an NFT, you get the chance to have a Zoom call with the names that you've seen at Wimbledon. And for anyone who loves tennis, that's an incredible opportunity.
That's an amazing idea. I see that you are full of innovative ideas and something that is really like breaking the market. Is there anything else we can know about you? We should know about you.
Well, I would say if you're trying to build your personal brand, there's a lot of hesitation on doing that because sometimes you spend so long building a website, or you spend so long getting the perfect product, or you spend, hours and hours trying to figure out who you want to be. And the biggest reason why people don't fail is because they don't start. And you've heard it time and time again, and that's because it's a reoccurring evidence. It's the same with PR. There's no right time to go and try and get yourself into Forbes. There's no right time to put yourself on national TV. But what you can do is you create the article to what's there for you. As long as you're serving somebody, they're going to love it. And the more you put yourself out there, the more that people are going to want to inspire by you, the more they're going to want to become your clients. But there's so much competition. You have to put yourself as an authority to start getting more sales in and to increase your conversion. Because if you and your competitor have two different Instagram profiles where you're getting your clients from, and one of them's been featured in Forbes and the others hasn't, automatically you're going to prefer that person because they have a credible source. So it's a really, really big part of the sales process that a lot of people forget about.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Sabrina, for sharing that with us. I would like to ask you also on the other side of the coin, because I know that many people are afraid of becoming too visible. Do you think that there is a way of maybe making mistakes in our first days? Because probably we don't have someone who is going to advise us what to do and how to do it. Do you think there may be an impact on our brand if we do something maybe which is not in accordance with the PR rules? Is this possible?
Well, the first part you said there is the education. And, my social media has different videos. My YouTube has different videos. You can work with a publicist or an agency, or you can do it yourself. It doesn't really matter. It really depends where you are budget-wise and where you are in your journey, but educate yourself. Then the second part of the question is, what are you educating yourself about? Okay, who do you want to be known for? What are the do's and don'ts? Look at the biggest role models. What are they doing? Have they got podcasts? Have they got a YouTube channel? What kind of offer have they got? And start thinking about, what are they doing that I can then implement into my business to put yourself forward? Yes, there is such a thing as negative PR. If someone's messaging you on the DMs, or you see these cheap sites on Fiverr, they demotivate your brand. You've got to think about how you can put yourself out there in the most authentic way possible, because it can take, years and years to build trust, but it could take one mistake to lose it. So you really want to make sure that you're consistent with what you're doing and you do it properly as well.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And you mentioned the podcast. What would you say is the role of the podcast in the brand of coaches, of entrepreneurs, of business owners?
Yeah, well, I think you have a great podcast, and hopefully anyone listening to this feel inspired as well. There's multiple different things what the podcast can do for you. The first is meeting incredible connections, because you're able to have that one-on-one communication with somebody with fairly low barriers to entry. But the second is, you not only have the visibility, but you have the authority. As the podcast host, people take you seriously. They want to listen to what you're doing every single week. And it's going to allow you to build that long-term community. And then finally, it's all about being able to funnel it somewhere. If you have a podcast, but you have no other way to help somebody, then they're stuck. So it's actually, if you have a podcast, can that lead into a Facebook group? Can that lead into a LinkedIn group? Can that lead into a course where you're able to really genuinely help somebody? And because they've heard you so much and they like you, they're more likely to work with you as well.
That's very interesting. So you mentioned podcasts, we mentioned social media, PR. Is there anything else we need to add for our branding?
Well, there's so many different things to add that you could add. And it's all about starting somewhere. I ultimately want to think, if I'm a business owner, what is my number one priority? My number one priority is sales, because without sales, I haven't got a business. Because you can spend money on, outsourcing to different agencies, etc. But if you haven't got the sales, how are you meant to pay for everything else? So I would really say starting your personal brand on a social media platform that has your ideal audience on. You can do all of this yourself and get a couple of big pieces of PR. That could be somewhere like Apple News, where you get 100,000 views per article, somewhere like Forbes, somewhere like Business Insider, that people have respectable names from. And that's all you need to get going, because you have the authority, and then it's your job to go get that visibility.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sabrina. How do we get in Forbes? Because you mentioned it many times. Is there a way? Is there a secret door that we can take?
Of course. I mentioned it many times because it's the most known publication to a lot of different entrepreneurs. What Forbes are looking for is they're looking for somebody who has been there, who has done it, and who has got a lesson to sell. They're not going to come knocking on your doorstep. You have to go and get them. So if I did it in, let's say, a few steps, step 1 would be increasing your digital footprint. Step 2 would be having consistency about what you do as a brand and as a personal brand on all of those different footprints and social medias. And step 3 is actually getting some smaller pieces of press, because before Forbes take you on, they want to make sure that you really are an expert in their industry, and they want to reduce their risk. So therefore, working with a PR agency, or you can do pitching yourself, Twitter's a great space for that. Try get some small publications making you the thought leader about what you want to talk about. So then when you do your pitch to Forbes, and I say you can do it yourself in the sense you can find a contributor and you can email them, or you can work with a PR agency. And why people work with agencies is Forbes contributors get like 1,000 pictures a day. So it's pretty hard. But you want to put yourself as something that's been done differently. And you have all the evidence to say that you're in the press before. And when they Google you, they see that same consistency. So they know they want to speak about you as a brand and what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that with us. I believe that our audience is going to love this episode. I am going to advertise everywhere because I know that many people need this information. And you are also having the company of PR. Can you help entrepreneur build all of these steps for their publication in Forbes or other PR articles?
Of course. Imagine that you're starting kickboxing for the first time and you're starting on your white belt. We want to try and get you to the black belt. And there's many different systems that we can do this. Now, working with an agency, the positives and the negatives. The positives is that you save a lot of hours because they know what they're doing. You only ever want to work with a publicist who guarantees results, because otherwise you're paying money and you don't have a guarantee. And then that can be really bad in the industry. And you also want to work with somebody who's done it themselves, who preaches as they do it, as they preach. You can also do this yourself if you haven't got so much of a budget, and it doesn't cost thousands of pounds to start. But if you were going to do it yourself, you want to find your ideal people that you want to pitch to on Twitter. You want to create a connection with them. You need to draft up a press release, and then you need to send it strategically to different press partners. The same question comes up, and it really is, is helping and getting you an authority going to help you make sales? And if it is, then PR should be a no-brainer. There's an amazing quote I remember, I think it was Bill Gates said, and if he was down to his last dollar, he would spend it on PR, because when people know that you're the authority, you'll get inbound leads, you'll get more closes, you won't have wasted sales calls that people didn't take you seriously. So providing you have something to help people, it's a massive help.
I fully agree with you. Thank you so much, Sabrina. I love this episode and I love your energy and your knowledge and experience. And from what you are explaining, it sounds a lot of work, especially for business owners who are at the beginning, who need to learn about marketing, about sales, about producing their own programs. I would advise personally to come to you, because you know what you are doing and you know how to take them to that final result. And I believe that this can save the whole time that, and even the money that we are going to invest in our own, trying to do it on our own. So I really believe in your work. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. I would like to close the interview today by asking you, who are you serving and how can people contact you?
Oh, thank you so much, Jenna. It's been so lovely to come on, and your energy as well. It's amazing. Ultimately, somebody who has an online business that they are established, they're making already 10K a month, and they are looking to really become the authority in their space, because they want to share their message with the world, but they also need to have somewhere to send somebody. So having the basic funnel set up, what we're going to do with a potential client is to increase their sales, increase their conversions, and increase their leads. I say 10K a month just because everything should be focused on sales. Before that, everything should be focused on getting more sales. But this really is a huge converter. In terms of getting in contact with me, I would say Instagram or LinkedIn is the best way. And if you are at the very kind of beginning stage, then if you message me the word blueprint on Instagram, you'll get sent a free personal branding blueprint. And you can do it yourself. You can have a little go. And hopefully it will help a little bit as well, because, you know, building this has been the biggest reason why I've seen other entrepreneurs build, because of their personal brand.
Yes, thank you so much, Sabrina. I am honored to have you here. I am really excited about everything I learned, and I'm looking forward having you in this podcast in the future.
Thank you so much. You too, Dan.